Hello YouTubers, what we are going to do today is we are going to etch on the Cameo 4. So realistically the Curio is what is designed to etch, but you can totally etch on the Cameo 4 and it doesn't do a bad job. It is much easier to etch on the Curio, but if you want to etch something on occasion, you can totally do it on a Cameo 4. So let me go show you what you need. Alright, so what etching is basically we're going to make a bunch of little scratches on, this is a clear acrylic. You could use color acrylic as well, but we're going to use clear. And basically we're making a bunch of little bitty scratches. Now up in the software you can decide how close or far apart you want your scratches to be. These are really, really close together. This is one of my first testers, see how they're farther apart. Same pattern, just different spacing. But I do want to make sure you're aware that this is about as dark as it's going to get on either the Cameo or the Curio. You might get a little darker, but you're still going to be able to see the scratches. It's still not going to be this really dark etching process. I had this made last year on, a friend of mine made them on her Glowforge. And see this really dark, and it's also very, there's a big divot here. Neither one of the Cameo or the Curios are going to be able to do this. And I just want to make sure before you do this that you understand that this and see how opaque this is and how dark this is. The machines can't do that. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that before you did something and then were upset because you had more of a sketchy look. So keep that in mind. Now what we are using is 2.5 millimeter acrylic. Now the nice thing with the Cameo 4 is that it has a bigger clearance than the previous machines. So this can only be done with this acrylic on Cameo 4. Can't be done on the other machines because you can't put as fat material through them. So I'll put a link down to this. This is from Craft Chameleon. But you can use any acrylic anywhere. Just make sure that at most it is 2.5 or 2.5 millimeters tall. Cameo 4 is a 3 millimeter clearance, but you got to remember you got to put a mat with this too. So 2.5 miller, 2.5 millimeter acrylic. You can use color as well, but this is just acrylic and it still has the protective sheet on it. Pull it off and it's clear. I will also be using my Cricut mat because I like that these are stiffer mat, but you can use whatever mat you want to, but I am using the Cricut mat today, so keep that in mind. So the big choice with this is what are you going to use to etch. What I am using today is the Chomas etching tool. She has re-released these for the Cameo 4, so they're fatter than the previous ones. So these are for the Cameo 4s. I'll put links down to this too. So she re-released her, this is the precision tip, and then this is the blunt tip. This is the one we're going to be using today. It's the one I liked the best. You can use the ones that are the smaller ones that are meant for the Cameo 3 or the Curio. The thing to know with them is that they don't quite fit into the adapters. So you can tape them and get them to fit a little bit better, but just know that they don't fit if you want to use them, and it doesn't fit at all on this guy. Your other option is to use the stippling tool that is made for the Curio, and you would just put the adapter on this guy since we're using him with the 4. It actually doesn't do a bad job. This is my little tester when I was testing everything out. And this is, so this is 1 pass a piece. This is just 1 pass. And then this is multiple passes, different forces. But it doesn't do a bad job. And then this is the precision tip. I always think the Chomas ones do a smoother etch and it's a bit more refined. This one's a bit more jagged. Also, I personally prefer this kind of look that's a little bit more a lighter etch. It's not really a heavy etch. Like this one, I did find when you increase the force, this one was an accident. I had the wrong settings. I was doing cut by line color and had the wrong one selected. So this was a really high force and a high speed. And see, it missed it missed them or it made them really light. And I think that's why it was a high force and high speed. So it's a low speed, low force kind of look. So that's the one we're going with. The blunt tip, which is this one, just was going to take a lot more force than I was kind of comfortable with. But if you do have it, you can use it. Just know that your settings are going to need to be, it's going to need a more stronger force to get the same kind of look that the precision tip does. So due to the world being crazy right now, this is sold out everywhere that I know of. I will leave a link to Amazon, so maybe if you watch this much later, they're back in stock. This is, however, substantially cheaper than this guy when the world wasn't crazy. I don't know right now. They're normally only about maybe $10 at most. This guy's $30. So if you're not going to etch, want to etch and see how it goes, he's not a bad deal. And I wanted to show you just a little bit closer what I was talking about. But see how, I don't know if the camera wants to show this. But see, that's the stippling tool. And then that's the precision tool. So see how this one's just a little bit rougher. But realistically, and it's also rougher to touch, this one is than that one. But you're not touching these. So keep that in mind and make the best decision for you. Also, one other thing with etching. These are some letters that I made. And I made a garden flag with them. You can use any design you want to. You can use any design you want to. But see how this has got gaps in it? It's so that you can ungroup them and cut them by like multiple colors. But see how there are gaps in the design? When I went to etch it, see how they're not gaps? It's just not ridiculously precise. So if you have a really detailed little design, it's probably not going to go really well where you have, if you have like a mandala that's got 8 billion lines on it, may not be the best choice to etch. I personally like these designs with a lot of negative space so that it doesn't take as long to etch and you kind of get a great look for it. Keep in mind this isn't a quick process, so if you pick out an 8x10 piece of acrylic and put on a really big dense design on it, you're going to be there for an hour or more getting passes done. So keep that in mind when you pick out your design. Also, detailed, hand detail, little stringy details, hairline details, not the best thing for etching. I would just stick with negative space and thicker lines. So what I did is these are 6x6 wooden canvases. These are them. And I just stained this. And then I used upholstery tacks to put my acrylic onto this. You can do whatever it is you want to. You can also hang them if you wanted to. You have the option when you buy to pick the number of holes you want up on Craft Chameleon. So you can put like ribbon through them and hang them if you wanted to as well. This is just kind of what I ended with. This is a boo-boo, so I put brown stain on it, didn't like it, and then put ebony black stain on it. So we kind of went rustic. I think it turned out really kind of cool, to be honest. But you could do anything you want to with them. So I think that's it. Well, let's go set it up in the software and then we will etch. All right, so we're in Silhouette Studio, and this is what we're going to end up making today. A friend of mine teaches, and so we're going to make her a little plaque. And so this one's already set up, but I'll show you how I set it up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to type out, and I'll leave links down below to the fonts I chose. Okay, so this first font is, I don't know how to say that, Lapo, whatever. And then I've gone to my glyphs panel to put in, these are 2 extra characters. We'll go fill this guy in. So that's it one. And then the second one is my school font. Now what I did for this one is I don't want, so if I fill it in with color, I don't want to etch this whole entire apple and it's going to take forever. So ungroup them so then they become individual little characters. And we're going to go over to the offset feature and we're going to do an internal offset that we're not going to be able to see because I filled it in with red. So what we're going to do Alright, so I'm gonna, alright, so we filled them in with black, so you can see the offset this time. We're gonna go to the offset panel and do internal. So we're gonna click my apple, do internal offset, and then you can see this red line. And I'm just gonna make it smaller. I don't want, alright, so that's what we're gonna go with. And hit apply. And then I'm gonna select my offset and my apple and right click and say make compound path. And then that's all that's gonna get etched. So now we're not having to sit through the solid apple being etched for 8,000 years. So I'm gonna move them a little closer together. Since the pieces of acrylic I have aren't huge. So I'm gonna grab all of my school fonts, go to transform, and we are going to line them up on the bottom. So see they're all lined up now. And then you space them out like you want to. And then we're gonna put this guy on top. And that's gonna be our design. So now we can select all of this and go to the sketch fill, the sketch panel called line effects. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a line around it. So this is our line around it. If you do this and your design disappears, all you need to do is go to line style and color and then just change the color. Sometimes when you import an SVG, it doesn't have a line with it. So when you click the line effects panel, it just all goes away. And then I personally like this hatch fill. You can put any of these in here. The hatch fill is just, it goes back and forth. It takes twice as long, but it's the one I always go back to. And I go down to about 0.15 normally. 0.10, 0.15 is normally what I go to. And then I like to put it on an edge, on an angle. You can see how it's turning. That's generally what I like to do, but play around with this. You can do all sorts of different effects. This one spirals out from inside each letter. This one spirals out from the center of the design. And you have sketchier ones. It just generally depends on what you want. But I just end up liking this one. I would stay away from any of these because they're just going to make a very messy outline and you're not going to want to deal with that. So that is how we got our design. And it's not going to, see how it makes this like diamond-y looking thing? It's not going to do that. So now, and that's all there is to it. We're going to go over to, and we're going to put our acrylic on our mat, and then we'll resize this guy because I've totally forgotten what the size is of the acrylic. And then we'll send them and get etching. All right, so a couple other things. This is a sort of not really sticky mat anymore. I highly recommend not doing this on a mat that you love because the etching makes a lot of dust and it's just going to ruin your mat. I do like to use a paintbrush to help sweep away the dust during our passes. Just to get them out of the way so that you're not just etching dust. And then they just peel right off, the covers do. And I just leave the back one on here. Now, I'm just kind of place this here on my mat. I don't ever like to put it right here, but I like to put it kind of somewhere near there. These are oversized pieces of acrylic because they're meant for pictures. So, and I just tape it. Now, I don't know if you noticed on here, it's not centered. I wrongly probably just use the force and just kind of place it in the software. You can make templates with vinyl or with chipboard. It's really up to you. I'm probably not setting the best example right here, but that's just so many extra steps. So, but if you are in trouble, if it gets in the holes of these guys, your etching piece is done. There's no way that you're going to be able to realign it. So do understand that. Something else you could do. All right, let me get a hold of myself here. You have to tape this down. There's no not taping this down. You have to tape this down. You can't just stick the acrylic on the mat and be like, oh, it's fine. You need to tape it down. No ifs, ands, or buts. Absolutely, you gotta tape it down. Something else you can do is draw. This is the marker holder, the Chomas Marker Holder, and this is a dry erase marker. We might actually do this. And you can draw a box to make sure that it is placed correctly. But yeah, you can totally make a template with some upside down vinyl as well. Alright, highly recommend you put something under your machine to keep it level. This is about a 2.5 inch tall biology book. Highly recommend you put something under this, because if not, what happens is it tries to come at an angle and you can potentially have problems with that. Highly recommend you put something under this. Don't pull out this tray, because if you pull out the tray, you risk your mat getting caught up in the roll feeder that's under here. So highly recommend a book, something to put under this. Also, these guys, push them over to the side so they're not in the way. And then, because I feel like I'm setting a bad example, we're going to use this Chomas Marker Holder real quick. And use the dry erase marker just to make sure our design is centered. Also, it's supposed to be a gift, so don't care if mine's offset, but off-center, but you don't really want to do the whole give one off-center to your friend. So the dry erase marker writes on this, and then we can just wipe it away. So that way we know if we're in the right spot or not. And you just put the popsicle stick under here, and then drop it down on the popsicle stick here. And that way it'll draw on our acrylic. Now you can totally use the force. That's what I did with my first one. This is just a little extra thing to make sure we get it placed correctly. Alright, so select everything and group it. Just makes it a little easier to move. We are under our 1 inch mark, and 4 is about center for us. Alright, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to put a box around him. And then we're going to let the marker holder draw it and see how we did on our placement. So we'll come over here to send. We're going to cut by line color real quick. So we're just doing our red one. And then you can come down here to your settings. We're going to sketch. And then we just can do. You don't need to have a high force for this. Also, this is probably not a good beginner project. Getting a lot of stuff going. So not a beginner project. And I'm happy we did this. Happy we did this. It was a little too high. So let's move it down and we'll put it through again. Alright, success. I'm happy we did that, because the first time we would have been etching over the holes for the acrylic, and that would not have been good. So, see our mark is squarely in our box here? So, we'll just erase it. Now, this is our Chomas Marker Holder again. Or not, oh, I'm sorry. This is our Chomas Precision Etching Tip. And then, okay, so if you put this in all the way, it's going to leave all sorts of drag marks and make a mess. What I highly recommend is, this is the same popsicle stick from the pencil holder, or from the marker holder. And put it on top of your acrylic, and then put it and let your holder rest on it. So, I know it's hard to see, but our holder is not resting on our popsicle stick. And so that way, see how it's raised up a bit? That's the best way I've found to do. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our box and kick it off our screen. I'm going to go over to send, and we can just go back to simple now, and it'll light all up. Now understand that's a lot of lines for your computer. So potentially if you have a slow computer, this could be a little laggy for it. So what I do is just use cardstock plain. We're going to sketch and then we can use the pen. I don't know if it really matters. For the first time through, I always like to do a force of 1 and a speed of 1. What I like to do is a force of 1, speed of 1, and then speed it up some. This first time will be slow, and anytime I try to do it faster, it just doesn't turn out as well. So force of 1, speed of 1. This is also me being conservative because, like I said, the Cameo isn't designed for this. So just being a little gentle with it. And then I increase the force and the speed as we go along. The number of passes that you do is up to you. I kind of stop when I get a look I like. You can continue to do as many passes as you want to. So we're going to hit send and see what happens. Alright, so it took about 20-ish minutes, and this is our first etching. And then what I like to do, and I've kind of done it some, is just take a paintbrush and then just get out all the dust. And then this is the dust, and this is why I told you to use an old mat, because all of this is going to get stuck to the mat. So please don't use your favoriteest mat ever, because it's just going to get messed up. Alright, so what I like to do now is bump it up to a force of, let's do 5, and then a speed of 3. You can do these in whatever increments you want to. And then let's do 2 passes. This shouldn't be as long. And then we'll see how it looks after that. Alright, so that's been brushed and this hasn't. So it's gone through again. And you'll see how much more stuff has been removed this time. You can see how much darker. Oh, never mind. You see how much darker it's gotten. Sorry, that was my hand. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put it through one more time. And we'll increase the force to 8. Keep the speed at 3. And we'll give it another 2 passes and then we'll be done. That should be plenty dark enough. Now I'm doing this again with one more pass, just as personal preference. You could pop this out right now and be done if you want to. But yeah, it's just personal preference. I wanted to do one more pass. But you could totally take this out and be done. Also, if you're doing a bunch of something, you want to be done, you can absolutely be done. It's really personal preference at this point. Alright, so that is all done. And then you brush it all off. Sorry, hand. Alright. There we go. And you just brush it all off. And there is your finished design. There we go. And I'm just going to use a paper towel to wipe off any. If you get it wet, all your etching will look like it disappears until it gets dry again. So there we go. Alright, so this is our stained little board. And I'm just going to peel off. You just peel off the backing. There we go. So my other thought with these is you could put like either HTV or vinyl, like an apple or a pencil maybe. Alright, so for the sake of time, because this has been a long video, we're not going to do anything, but know that you could. I think it'd be really cool if you did it with like, if you painted it and then put HTV on it or something. This is not high tech. I just kind of push them in there and then hammer them in. Attempted to get all of this straightish, but you know, handmade sharp sometimes. And there is our finished project. This little board has been stained. I did sand it first, and then it's got 2 coats of stain on it. You could also paint them. You could do anything else with them. Cover them in vinyl. You could leave them raw too and just sand them. and put your acrylic on top of it. Options are endless with this, and I think it turned out pretty well. You know, considering the Cameo is not really designed for this, but I think it turned out really, really well. So that's Miss Cole, and then that is our J. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. We'll be back with another tutorial soon. Thank you for watching.